Hi, I'm Jadi and welcome back to Geeking with Jadi, another video from StepUp. In this series, I'm trying to show you more advanced things that enterprise companies use, people with more experience than us use, and these kind of stuff. You can write your project, you know how computers work, you know your programming, your databases, but you might not be familiar with time series databases or time series at all. And that's totally okay. The reason that we have this series is to show you the things that you normally won't see in your general programming life. I will go through the concept of time series, then we'll cover the time series databases, and we will have a hands-on on the InfluxDB as an example, which is a modern example of the time series. Time series databases will let you to program in scale and also lets you create super amazing dashboards and information about your program without much more effort than you've already done. It's enough to have some time series data. But what is time series? As the name indicates, you have a time and you have some points here. Very easy. For example, you have the temperature of the room, so of your CPU. It's more computer. It's more computery. It's more geek. You have the temperature of your CPU here, or percentage of the free memory, and the times goes on. So each point refers to the temperature at this time. Then you examine it again, you have another temperature here. This is in general called time series data. They have one specific idea behind them, which is there are readings based on the times. And in most of the cases, you have questions about time. For example, you have the CPU usage percentage on your computer. You want to ask what was the minimum CPU usage in the previous day? What was the maximum? Did I ever pass this threshold, which is 90%, and I should know if I did? What is the average of my CPU usage in the last 24 hours? What was the average yesterday, the day before? You don't need to know what was your CPU usage 9:15 yesterday morning, but you need to know the average. These are the things that time series databases can handle super great. Still, if you need this, you can tell your time series to keep this. Depends on you and your use case. What is different here than creating a classic, for example, SQL, RDBMS relational database and saving the time and the CPU usage? Time, CPU usage, time, CPU usage. You are reading it once every other second, for example, or every second, and saving them here. So if you need the average of yesterday, you can write a SQL query and tell it, say, give me the average of the CPU usage in this specific time. No harm. You can do it. But the problem is in scaling. Time series databases are optimized for time series data and for huge data. Even the files they are saving on the OS is optimized for this kind of data and this kind of saving. In things like, one example is InfluxDB, another famous example is RRD tool. For example, on RRD tool, you have to tell this database that I need the average of the previous 15 minutes. I need the average of yesterday. I need the sum of this. I need the mean of this. I need the max of that. And while saving data, it will create all of these optimized. Also, the data you are saving on disk is optimized for this time series data. Not only to be fast, but also to optimize the disk space. So you can have billions of time series data saved, and it would be much faster than a normal relational database, and it will use much less disk space. So these are the reasons that you switch to InfluxDB. It is highly used in IoT projects, on monitorings. You want to see how much outgoing data you had on your network, for example. Most of them even started as monitoring tools. InfluxDB is one of the famous examples. You have others too. Let me see if I said whatever I wanted, if I covered everything. Continuous data, ingestion in high rate, for sure. On an IoT project, you might have 10 million devices, each sending their information every minute. For a time series, it's very easy to work with this data, to digest it. All app queries are normal queries, when you can just write something and get the information about your data. Efficient compression on the ingested data, and efficient data removal. Sure, you can tell it, I need to keep only 60 days, and you don't need to handle it. There are different kinds, different programs which does this. From Apache, we have Druid, we have ExtremeDB, InfluxDB. InfluxDB does have a MIT FOSS or OSS, open source software, or free open source software with a MIT license, which is very open. And the same software do have another licensing which is commercial, which is for clustering. If you want to cluster them, you have to buy the commercial license. Also, RRD tool is a GPL one, which is very famous, older one, not as fancy as Influx, but still great. Whisper, working on it, written in Python. So you know the concept. Another important thing, many of the time series databases do also create nice charts. RRD tool does the same. You can tell it, okay, save this data, save this data, save this data. Now I want a chart from my CPU usage. Alongside it, show a chart with these two hosts and combine the memory and CPU or whatever. And you can create fancy dashboards. Another cool thing is you can even give your personal information. You can have a program which queries your bank account, sees how much money you have, and sends it to a InfluxDB, and you can easily have a very nice chart of your spendings, of your income, or whatever project you are working on. This is a cool point. Whenever you have a project with some time series data, it's enough to install an RRD or Influx and just send data there, and you can easily create impressive charts for your manager or project owner. Do not sugarcoat everything and do not give all of this for free. I'm teaching for free. Have fun. Anyway, let's have a look at the Influx. It's always good to click the main logo to make sure that you are on the first page, because when you are searching, it will try to always hide the free software and show you the one which you have to buy. Go to developers, no, products. There is one cool one here, running on my laptop. You can do running on my own environment, but running on my laptop, it's only one executable file, which is very easy to use and very easy to work on and learn. You can just omit the register. It says, okay, you want a Docker image? No, at the moment I want Mac OS tar, which is the funniest one, coolest one, funny. It's only a file, you have to download it. I've already downloaded it. So I can go to temp, mk-flux, cd flux. Let me make it a little bit larger. So I can copy from downloads Influx here. And I can tar xf Influx. We'll divide I'm working with Tmax as always, very easy to just navigate where you want to go. And Flux. So as you can see, there is a executable here, 150 megabytes only, and you can run it. As a side note, if you are on a Mac machine and you run an executable downloaded from internet, you may get some warnings that I cannot run this is dangerous, whatever. Go to Finder, find the file, right click and open it. Also, if you run it, Mac OS might ask for a confirmation that you allow running this software. If everything is fine, the software will be running on this port. They've took a very nice port, remembering Intel 8086 chips. So it is running here. It's a very good idea. When it's running for the first time, you have to go through a local host from a web browser, get started. This is the good idea because you have to configure a new username and password. It doesn't work. It doesn't allow anyone to use it unless you do this. If you need, I can mention MongoDB. You were able to just run it and connect it and start developing, and it was very cool. It was NoSQL, everything, but you forgot to create a password. And there were, and still are, lots and lots of servers with MongoDB, passwordless MongoDBs on them. So I create a username. It needs a long password, initial organization, and bucket. It separates data in organizations. So I called it org. And you can create different buckets here and put everything in this bucket. I called it just bucket. You can create another bucket for another project or for another set of data. Call it data and write your data here. When you're writing data, you need one API token, which is like a password and lets you work with this instance. You need an organization name and a bucket name. So if I want to save something, I have to use this API token, write it in this organization, in this bucket. We will see. It has a quick start, which is cool. You can load your data, input new data, build a dashboard, or set up alerting. Let's do import data. You can do a CSV import, Flux annotated CSV, line protocol, which is easy, or different language. Or if you want to do more things, you can have a Telegraph plugin, which inserts data from lots of things like Apache logs or Linux machine and different things into the Influx. I will go with Python, so we'll see more stuff. So I have one token here, which is Jadi's token. It is already created, so I'm using that one. You can see it here in this configuration. Also, I'm writing into bucket. You need to install Influx client, which I've already done for sure. And this is the initial code to connect to the client. I will create a file here, write py. I will zoom. This is my client. It splits this line. I will join this line. So, how does it work? It starts with the imports, creates my token API. I am going to work in the organization. My bucket is called bucket. So it just calls the connection to this instance with this token and with this organization as client. Also, this one should not be in 2 lines. So now I'm ready. I have the connection and it's enough to write something there. There are different methods to write. As you can see, you can use different things. For example, this is called line protocol. I am writing the point, which is called mem. It has one tag, which is called host, and it's host 1. So I'm saving the memory of this specific host. You separate your different memories, different machines with the host tag. You can do whatever, use whatever you want. And this is the field I'm using. My field is called use percentage, and this is its value. You can do like this in one line. This is called line protocol, or you can use data points. It works like this. You define a point. It is called mem. It has one tag. It has one field. It can have more tags and more fields, and it has one time. And you at the end write it here. So let's copy this. This is easy and straightforward. And this is my data. So I'm writing mem, my host is host. You just created this on the go. I could write anything else. This is very easy, as you can see. And I can run this. Temp flux, Python 3, right. It worked. So I wrote one data point like this. I called it mem. I tagged it with host equals host1. I added one field which was used % like this. I can add a few more. Just run my program once more with 26. Ran it once more, it saved one more data. I can add another one. A critical issue happened. My use percentage is 96. And then the server was okay. I'm waiting a little bit more. Now I have it. I added 4 different points into my flux. As you can see, the good point is I didn't need to configure anything. I just called this right with this data. It created the tags, it created the point name and everything. Now if I come to my GUI, I can even create a dashboard here. I can say create a dashboard. I want a new dashboard. Call it my dash. I can add a cell. My cell are different cells in one huge dashboard. What I want to add. Okay, my first query. From bucket, I need the mem. From mem, I can add one of the fields. I only have one field, which is use %. I can create for specific host or all hosts. I created for all hosts. Submit. Very easy. We created a dashboard, which was cool. I can say, okay, and I will name this cell memory usage, for example. Now I have a dashboard with one chart in it. This is super cool. As you saw, we were only sending some data, and now I can create fancy dashboards. It was also possible to read this data using the Influx programming. For example, I can do, let me make it a little bit smaller. I can go to the same place, copy my write program, copy my write program to read py and vim read. I did the copy to make sure that I have these tokens, orgs and everything, but instead of this write, I need a read. I can come here on the developers. I can go to the docs. It has a very good docs. Again, it tries to confuse you to go to the commercial one. I will go to OSS one, open source software. And here I, for example, have query data. On query data, I can query data using InfluxQL. Query with Flux. Here it's talking about Flux. Flux is its programming language. Let me go to the first page. They had a nice example here, which I always use. On the first page, I just want to see how Python binding works. They have it here. I say Python read data. It's like this. So I have the client. Ouch. Undo. Set paste. I want to paste something. So what happens here? I have a client on this URL with this token on this org. This bucket is not important. And then what I do is I want a query API. So client query API. And I read all the tables by default. It says from, this is the Flux syntax. I say from this bucket, then only this range, only read the last day. My start is -1 day. Let's run it and see if it works correctly. So I can say Python 3 read data. It breaks because I don't have this bucket. My bucket was called bucket, and we don't need this because we are not using it. So it reads everything from the InfluxDB. This was my program. Here I'm saying from this bucket, read whatever, then I'm piping it to another thing, which is range only last day. So it reads whatever is there. It's too much. I can do fancier things. I can say I will continue on the next line. Let's go here, just show you the documentation. For example, here we had a filter. So saying range this, I need a filter like this. I will add. Okay, that is finished. So I will add another part and I will filter based on this function. The measurement should be mem. Mem was my point. So I'm now reading only the memory data. It was a time series. So these are the times. These are the memory status I saved. You see how cool is this? Super easy, straightforward, and fun. I hope you find it fun. Think how much you can add to your project with ease. Only a couple of lines, and I'm saving all my time series using them. Or for example, I can say, because it's a time series database, I can say I have another request. Okay, now you read all the bucket. You said only this, only the last day, and only read whatever is in the memories measurement. But I want the maximum of it. This will give you the last day's maximum. Let me exit from this so it would be nicer. That was my writing part. So here I can read the max, or I can say I want the moving average. Moving average is like if you have this time series chart, you can say the average of this, the average of this, the average of this. So you will won't be bothered with one point, but you have a better understanding of how it moves. For example, n is 3. Do the moving average on the last day on 3 data points. And it will give you a moving average of the data. You can see you had a quick jump, but nothing was too high for so long. Or any other thing you are interested. Let me add one more point. I mean data point. Another 16, that is fine. I can say Python 3 write. I added just one more so you can see how my dashboard is working. I can refresh it. Enable auto refresh is off at the moment, so my dashboard is like this. It is a time series. So I inserted this in this much time and then worked, and this is the new data point. And you can just add new things here or even do fancy stuff. Let's go here. You can create alarms. You can say, I have a threshold check. I want to, on this bucket, on the mem measurement, on the use percent, on any host, if the submit, I cannot submit it here. Now I have the chart, but I need this. I can say only on the last 1 minute, for example, make a critical one if it's higher than 60. Critical. And you can create a new alarm. You can connect different things to your alarm. I say, okay, notification endpoint is Slack. So cool. HTTP, do a HTTP request somewhere, send an SMS, email, whatever, or send a message on Slack if this happened. So this is super cool. You can see how easy you can save your data if you want to have an average, sum, mean of a day or something, or create super easy and nice dashboards. And remember, you can insert data with different methods. Here I showed you Python. You can create new points with whatever tool which is easy for you. For example, you can even have a curl. You can have a API. You can have a CLI. From a command line, you can say new data point on this format. Or I can create a curl request or send it via Node.js or any HTTP REST API client which is good for you. It says, okay, send a request with post to this address. I want to write in this organization in this bucket. And precision, how much precision and time do I need? My authorization token is this token API, which we had it. My content type, my accept. And then you say, okay, save in this point with this tag, this field, and this field. So you can even have a cron job on your Linux machine, which just send something to your InfluxDB and you have some fancy chart there. If you have a project with a customer, I mean the person who pays you to do the project, which for example sells something, you can count the cells, send each cell when you have, you can check your bank account and create super nice monitoring on it. And for sure, you can go back to your dashboard. You can add another cell and say, for example, I need, because we don't have much data here, I cannot add anything super fancy. What I did on the mem, on the measurement mems, I need another filter on the user percentage, and I can here say even I want a window period or aggregation function, custom aggregation function. What I need is, for example, increase and skew and standard deviation. And these are the whatever it is. You can stop on it. It will show more data. You can add a node somewhere and do all the fancy stuff. Your project will be much nicer with this. And for sure, if you are recording lots of data, time series data, this is your solution. Have fun. I suggest you to check RRD tool. That's also another one, more lower level. Lower level in computer means closer to the hardware. You will have better understanding of the files you are creating, of the schemas you are creating, what measurements you are going to have, and this kind of stuff. Download the InfluxDB on your laptop, run it, connect to it, send some data, try it with a curl from your Node project or whatever, and create fancy stuff. I used to have a huge dashboard on my life. How many videos I created, how much money I earned, how much I spent, and lots of data points. Even when I was translating something, script would check the main file with the translation file. We check the words and say, okay, this much of the data is translated up to now, and we'll update the chart every hour. So I had a chart of everything. That is so cool. Enjoy, step up, and tell your friends, and please follow. That makes me happy and encouraged to continue.